So my name is Abhinav Agarwal, and I will be your MC for the next for these two book launch events. So with that, let's get started. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you here for this book launch event, and we have two book launches today. The first one is 2611 Unforgiven by Lieutenant Colonel Manish Jetli, who we have here. And the second one is Operation Jawhar, a love story by Professor Abhishek Banerjee. So what I will do is I will read out a few introductions about the Indica Academy and the Indic Book Club, just to give you a sense of what is it that we do and how you can be a part of it and contribute to it. So Indica Academy is a platform for public intellectuals to discover their potential, transform them as thought leaders, and to nurture them to become social entrepreneurs. Indica Academy incubates, invests, and assists social enterprises which deliver a product, service, or an experience that is based on Indic thought. Its work spans scholarships and grants, courses and programs, networks and platforms, and you can visit their website at indicacademy.org or follow them on Twitter at Indic Academy. And the Center for Indic Writers and the Indic Book Club seeks to identify, encourage, and promote and grow authors writing about India and the world, for India and the world. And we are invested in the journey of these writers and work with them through various stages, right from if they have an idea all the way to helping them conceptualize and bring it to market. Okay, and you can follow us at our website, which is www.indicbookclub.com, or follow us on Twitter at Indic Book Club. So with that, let us start with Lieutenant Colonel Manish Jetli. So he retired from the Indian Army, and he served as a Lieutenant Colonel and he was with the Army for more than 20 years. Most of it was spent in Jammu and Kashmir, not for tourism, mind you. He also in 1995 served in the Siachen Glacier, and he has seen action against our dear neighbors Pakistan and Uri, Akhnur and the Gurez sectors, and during the Kargil War, he was deployed in Baramulla, and he was also seen in action against the Chinese in the Ladakh Scouts. He has also served in Rajasthan, Punjab, and has had a stint at the Army headquarters as well. And he retired from the Army about 7 years ago in January 2012. After that, he went and also he's an alumnus of the Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad. And he worked in the corporate sector for a few years till he took a full-time retirement to pursue his passion for writing. His first book that came out a couple of years ago was centered around that infamous episode at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, for which people like us every year contribute hundreds of crores of rupees so that they can pursue their noble endeavors there. The book was titled Oh My God, and his latest book that we are very excited to launch is 2611 Unforgiven. It's a work of fiction based on the very real and tragic events of 2611 2008. So with that, I would like to invite Lieutenant Colonel Manish Jetli. Now, if you look at any society, it has a lot of different people performing different tasks, right? One of them is what we have known as the Kshatriyas, warriors, the knights in Europe and so on. And what did the Kshatriya do? What did the soldier do? Right? He defended our borders of any nation, of any kingdom, of any country. And what does defending your physical borders do? It creates space for a country to form. It provides the physical boundaries, it protects the physical boundaries of a nation that allows what is inside to form, to grow, to nurture. And people like Lieutenant Colonel Manish Jetli have devoted their lives to doing exactly that. It's a separate question what we who are responsible for creating the shape of our nation spiritually, intellectually, and otherwise do with that freedom, but that's a separate question. As our chief guest, it is a fascinating journey that I'm sure she will share some of those insights with us. But Ms. Sai Swarupa was an analyst with a venture capital firm working with Excel spreadsheets. That is perhaps one of the most exciting things that one learns and does in their corporate lives. And her interests have included startups, economics, Carnatic music, philosophy, politics, history, and literature of India. Fortunately enough, thankfully enough, she's also won a state-level gold medal from the Tirupati Tirumala Devasthanam in rendering Annamacharya Kritis, and she holds an MBA from the Indian Institute of Technology at Kharagpur. Her first book came out in 2005. It was named Abhaya. 2015, sorry, which was named Abhaya, and it revolves around this character named Abhaya and is set around and centers around the Naraksur Badh. And she followed that up with another female-centric novel named Avishi that was centered around a Vedic character by the name of Vishwala. And it was a fabulous bestseller. And a third one which came out, I believe, last year.
Yes.
2018, since we are in that year, 2018, is named Mori, and I think within 24 hours of its release, it had climbed up to the #1 bestseller list in its categories for some time at least, outselling even the likes of Amish Tripathi and others. So, no mean achievement. And just to put it in perspective, her first book, Abhaya, was self-published through Amazon's Kindle direct publishing platform. And as she has mentioned in one of her interviews, it took several months for it to sell about 1,000 copies via Kindle, but her first book reached that milestone in a matter of days. So, truly, fabulous achievement. And her book Avishi is, I'm so happy to have read and to share with you, if you've not already read, is that it has been acquired by a studio and work is in progress to bring that story to the big screen. And it was called out by First Post as one of the 5 trends that shaped Hindi cinema in 2018. So with that, I'd like to invite Sai to stage. 2611 remains a very painful and an open wound on the Indian national psyche. As you know, terrorists who were trained and financed and supported by our friendly neighbors, sent in terrorists, how many, 8, 9 or 10 terrorists were sent to India's financial capital where for a period of 48 hours they ran amok in the city, killing more than 150 people. And bad as it was, what is even more tragic is that 10 years after that event, we still do not have closure. The people who supported them, all but one terrorist were killed by the Indian police forces during that raid, and the one lone surviving terrorist, thanks to the incredible bravery of Tukaram Ongle, who laid his life down but managed to capture that lone terrorist, did foil a lot of other plans that had probably been hatched around that terrorist event. But the people who supported, financed, and basically drove that operation from Karachi still roam free. So Colonel Jetli's book is a work of fiction, but based on those very real events, and it tells a story of Vikrant, who loses his wife and daughter in the attacks on the Taj Hotel. And after a period of recovery, he cannot reconcile himself to the fact that there's been no closure, there's been no justice. And slowly but surely, what and how he leads up to to coming up with this plan and devising a plan and putting it into action is one written story. I do wish we did not have to call it a work of fiction, but it is what it is. So with that, I'd like to invite Jayashree to please say a few words about the book, about his motivations as to what led him to write it, and what should be the reader take away from that wonderful book.
Thank you, Abhinav. First of all, thank you, Indica Academy. Thank you, Sir. Thank you for coming and doing the honors. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shashi. Very thanks. Thank you, Indica Academy. It's fantastic, and the kind of work Indica Academy is doing is incredible. And those of you who are not who are unfamiliar, Abhinav has given a little bit about it. You might like to check it out on Facebook, Twitter, etc. So it will be an eye-opener, and you will be intellectually richer if you interact with Indica Academy. Right, the book 2611 Unforgiven. Well, it's about the attacks in 2008, Mumbai. Now it's like Bangalore. There's also a city of dreams. People come from all over the place to Bangalore, to Mumbai, with dreams in their eyes, and they want to fulfill their dreams, and many of them succeed. And the locals, as well as these people from outside who come to Mumbai, they've made Mumbai a place which has an identity of its own, and this identity actually is not just in India itself, but throughout the world. But sometimes this identity becomes a problem, becomes the issue itself. The enemies of the country believe that if they hurt this identity, they can hurt the nation, which is right. If they hurt Mumbai, it reflects very poorly on the nation, it harms the nation. The political capital of the country may be in Delhi, but Mumbai is the financial capital of the country. So any harm which comes to Mumbai reflects very poorly on the nation. And this is exactly what the terrorists aim to do. Now, if we see the kind of attacks that have taken place on Mumbai, right from 92 onwards, there were train blasts. 93 there were train blasts. There was a train blast in 2003 and 2006. Series of train blasts, and then bomb blasts in 2006 and 2011. There were 3 blasts in Jhaveri Bazaar, and I've not talked of 2611 in this. In all of this, more than 1,000 odd lives were lost in these attacks on Mumbai only. So, what is the reason that Mumbai has been attacked time and again? Why is it that we have not been able to stop these terrorists from targeting Mumbai? And not just Mumbai, there have been attacks all over the country during that period. If you see those 2 decades, there were attacks all around the country. So what is the prime reason why we were not able to stop these people from targeting our innocent citizens? And the most important reason is that हिंदी में जिसे कहते हैं कि मुंह तोड़ करारा जवाब हमने उन आतंकवादियों को नहीं दिया. That is the only reason why these terrorists felt that they could attack us, kill our innocent citizens, and get away with it. Yes, we have caught some people, some individual foot soldiers we have caught, but they don't mean anything at all, because the actual planners, the actual people who are plotting against the nation are sitting comfortably in Mumbai, they are comfortably in Pakistan. Be it Hafiz Singh, be it Dawood Ibrahim, be it Zakir Rahman Lakhvi or Tiger Bimal. All these people are sitting comfortably in Pakistan and plotting against us. And as far as giving a reply, befitting reply is concerned, there is a very short window of about a month or maximum a month and a half, during which you can give a reply to those people. And I don't mean individuals in this, I mean the nation as such. it's only 1.5 months. Like for example, when 9/11 happened, within 3 weeks, operations against Taliban in Afghanistan were launched by America. When Uri attacks happened, we launched our surgical strikes within 2 weeks of those surgical strikes. Now that is a befitting reply. After this period is over, you can only seek justice for those people and for the next of kin. But unfortunately, even after 10 years now, it's 2019 now, even after more than 10 years, those people, the next of kin, have not been given justice. And what to talk of justice? Now, if you read the newspapers during the 10th anniversary, they were talking of forgiveness, moving on, and stuff like that. In Mumbai also, on 26/11/2018, a program was held, and the main theme was forgiveness, moving on. Now, at what level are we talking about? At what level are we talking about forgiveness and moving on? Are we talking about this at an individual level, or are we talking about this at the national level? Because if it is at an individual level, one can understand that yes, somebody who is a Mumbaiker or somebody who has lost his loved one in 2008 now feels that it has been a long time. 10 years is a pretty long time, and it is fair that that person say that okay, now let's move on with life. We can't keep getting stuck in the past. But as a nation, can we say, forgive it, forget it, move on, koi baat nahi, chalta hai, ho gaya. Can we do that as a nation? Well, I don't think so. As a Fauji, I don't think we can ever say that we can just move on. And just, I mean, अगर हम दिल पे पत्थर रख करके एक बार अगर हमने ये कह दिया कि चलो okay, move, forget. What will those guys sitting in Afghanistan, sitting in Pakistan think? They will say that these are cowards. These people are weaklings. They need to be attacked again and again till such time they are obliterated. And that's exactly what they are planning. Let's have no doubt about it. Those Hafiz Saeed and Zakiur Rahman, Naqvi and Tiger Memon and Dawood Ibrahim, they are planning destruction of India. Let us have no doubt about it. And forgiveness या माफी उन लोगों को दी जाती है जिसने हाथ जोड़ करके माफी मांगी हो कि हाँ भाई हमसे गलती हो गई, आगे से हम नहीं करेंगे. Has Hafiz Saeed or any of those guys asked for forgiveness? Has Pakistan asked for forgiveness? So what forgiveness and moving on are we talking about? And Ajmal Kasab ne maafi maangi thi. He asked for forgiveness. We didn't forgive him though, and rightly so. After killing more than 150 people and injuring many hundred more, maafi मांगना और माफी देना दोनों it has no meaning. वो बिल्कुल बेमानी होता है. So, and in any case, Kasab had come here to die. He was supposed to have died. That's what the perpetrators of 26/11 wanted, कि Kasab जिंदा ना पकड़ा जाए. And that is where, as Abhinav pointed out, Constable Tukaram Komble, and it's very heartening to note that Constable Tukaram Komble was an ex-Fauji. Yeah. So it is, had it not been for him, the entire planning or entire thing to blame it on RSS, that would have succeeded. They would not have, in the end, they would have found out that yes, they are all from Pakistan. But the initial blame, that would have been exploited for reasons we all know very well. And when this man was hanged, when Ajmal Kasab was hanged, I don't know about you guys, but मेरे दिल को एक सुकून मिला, अच्छा लगा कि इतने बुरे कर्म की सजा उसको ऐसे आदमी को मिली. It was absolutely fair and absolutely just that this man was hanged. But there are people for whom who have lost their loved ones, they still want justice. There are people. who have not moved on. And that's exactly the reason why I wrote this book. Because as a Fauji, I believe that there has to be a closure to the wounds. There has to be a closure to 26/11, which till date has not happened. And this is my attempt to find that closure for those loved ones, for those who lost their loved ones in these attacks. And it is a story, like Abhinav mentioned, there's a story about a person who loses his wife and daughter in these attacks, and then he's looking for closure, but that doesn't happen. So what does he do? This is basically that story. Now I'll read out a few lines. Now, in this he's trying to understand as to what exactly is the problem. Why are we getting attacked over and over again? And he's talking to someone who is a general in the army. So he asks, "Uncle, is Kashmir so important to us that we keep sacrificing our people over and over again for it?" Now many of us believe that Kashmir is the most important issue between India and Pakistan. Is Kashmir so important to us that we keep sacrificing our people over and over again for it? Gen Prabhakar was surprised. "Uncle, we must have lost thousands of lives since 1947 because of it, haven't we?" The general nodded. "I can understand why you're saying this, but that's not the solution to the problem. That's not what proud nations do. They don't give territory away just because someone is asking for it." Vikrant remained silent. "Moreover, do you think there will be peace between India and Pakistan even if we give Kashmir to them?" Vikrant was listening intently. "No, my boy, there won't be any peace between us even after that. Pakistan will then get more and more and will start asking for something else. You see, their whole aim is to hoist their flag on the Red Fort in Delhi. You need to understand this important fact. This is true. They call it Ghazwa-e-Hind. And let us not be fooled by all their peace overtures or what they keep trying to do, like the Kartarpur corridor, which they tried, kind of said that we want peace with India. But actually it is not. Vikrant was surprised. It seemed like a far-fetched idea. If we do not want to give Kashmir to them, then why haven't we solved this problem in the last so many years? We have fought 4 wars with them, and yet we have not been able to resolve this issue. This doesn't show our forces in a very good light, does it? Vicky, for your information, we have not fought a single war with Pakistan for Kashmir. We have not fought a single war with Pakistan for Kashmir." Vikrant was surprised. What? What are you saying? I don't get it. It's true that we have fought 4 wars with Pakistan, but we've been only reacting to Pakistan's actions. Except for 1971, each war happened only because of Pakistan Army's intrusion into our territory. Even in 1971, the first shot was fired by them. Each time we retaliated to push them back. Every war has been initiated by them. What do you mean, Uncle? What I mean is that all the wars were initiated by Pakistan, and we have never attacked Pakistan on our own. So what? Why didn't we finish the job when we had them on the ropes? Vicky, you first need to understand how things happen. Like I said, in 1947, 65 and 1999, that is Kargil, it was Pakistan who started the war. They were well prepared, and as a result, they initially gained some ground in each case. But then we struck back swiftly and countered their move. Not only did we recover lost ground, we even made some gains. In all these wars, we could have defeated Pakistan comprehensively. But unfortunately, each time, as we started making gains, our political leaders accepted a ceasefire. They don't understand that wars should not be stopped but allowed to come to their logical end. Sometimes you need the war to run its course. By stopping it in the middle, you only prolong the pain. Had our leaders not agreed on those ceasefires, the Kashmir problem would have been solved a long time ago. Vikrant here agreed with the general. Wars need to be ended, not just stopped. Think about it. There's a major difference between the two. In stopping the war and ending the war. Think about it, Vicky. If United Nations was around during the Second World War, they would have surely stopped the war in the middle. This would have allowed Hitler to remain in power for many more years, and God only knows how many more people he would have gone on to kill. The general said, I understand your point, uncle, but then why did our leader accept the ceasefire? The general took a deep breath. That was mainly because of the pressure of the bigger powers of the world. Every time they started losing, Pakistan would beg the US, China, or even Russia to intervene and somehow stop the war. That's their trait. They start every war, and then when they start losing, they start whining and crying for help. In fact, the Pakistani forces have never won any war for their country, but they still don't accept defeat. They have never won any war till date. But what about 1971, uncle? We had them at our mercy. Why didn't we finish the job then? After we had won the war in Bangladesh and had more than 90,000 Pakistani prisoners of war, why didn't we force them to vacate Kashmir before we returned those prisoners? Asked Vikrant. A logical question. That's a very good question, Vicky. Unfortunately, it can only be answered by Indira Gandhi. And she is no longer around to do that. Maybe there were international pressure on her to honor the protocols of the Geneva Convention. We don't really know. Isn't it ironical that we finished the war on our eastern border for the benefit of Bangladeshis, but we didn't do it for ourselves on the western border? You're right, Vicky, it's ironical as well as sad. You see, the army won the war, but Indira Gandhi lost it in Shimla on the day. So what now, uncle? What is the way forward? You've just said it. We need to finish the war on our western front. We need to defeat them comprehensively. There's no other way. I'll stop over here. I'll leave the rest of it for you to find out by reading the book. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Jaitley. That was a very stirring passage, and as I read the book, that was one of the things that stuck with me. It's a question that we have not asked our leaders, and our leaders have never answered that question. Why is it that we have given up all the gains that our army gets for us at the negotiating table? Yes, we all like to be seen as good people in the eyes of the world, but surely there has to be a limit to the, I'll use this phrase, the Mahatma syndrome that afflicts all our political leaders. So, one is the book. Both books that are being launched today are available for you to purchase copies of at the back. So, anytime, please feel free to do so. And that is also one way of supporting Indica authors. The second is, I will. Before we, I'm sure you have questions about the book, about life in the army, and also any other questions you might have for Colonel Jaitley. But before that, I'd like to invite Sai to say a few words and bring her perspective to the book.
Namaste, Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
It feels surreal, and it's still to sink into me what's happening today. I still remember, Manishji, when the war at Kargil was on. I was in high school. My best friend here will remember. We were organizing marches, prayer meets, and a lot of such congregations to pray for the success of our soldiers, our army at the borders, and I still remember that vividly, and now it feels so surreal, and it's my total privilege to inaugurate a book written by a man who has fought in that war. okay, it will take time to sink into me. And I had an interesting encounter with a gentleman from the army who taught me what passion and commitment is. This was during the time, during my Kharagpur days when I was studying MBA. I started talking to this person. It was in some fest, we were waiting for some concert to begin, and I started talking to this person in the army. We started talking, then he's like, he came to this, what are your interests? I said, I read, and what are the books that you read? Mahabharata came like the first thing out of my mouth. Oh, interesting, I don't meet many people who read Mahabharata. No, that's my passion. I was like, are you sure? Yes, because I thought, reading Amachitrakatha, Rajaji, Kamla Subramaniam and parts of K.M. Ganguly counted for passion at that time. No, I think it's your hobby, but it's not your passion. How can you say that? Because for me, it's like people from Mahabharata are like my extended family, and someone saying that's not my passion is something. If it was really your passion, you would not sit here talking to me. You would have made yourself invisible in some corner of this auditorium, and you would be reading whatever you find on Mahabharata. Whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you would not give excuse of academics, you would not give excuse of family, you would not give excuse of job, but you would be staying true to your passion. That is passion. Then I realized that is the passion and commitment of the Indian Defence Forces, and that is the reason that is keeping us safe all this while. And that same amount of passion and commitment I encountered when I was reading passages from 2611 Unforgiven. So please buy and read and leave reviews on the book. Please recommend it to your like-minded and unlike-minded friends. It's a privilege that's made possible because of Indica Academy. I'm very thankful to Indica Academy. I urge you all to follow on Indica Academy on Twitter, Facebook. Indian Book Club is Indian Goodreads, right? Actually Goodreads. So please make your reading list, popularize it, because reading and spreading the narrative of what actually represents India is something we all need to contribute. It's not to support Indica Academy or support Indian Book Club as such, but it is to support Indian civilization. It is to support what our ancestors have stood for. It is to support what our children will cling on to tomorrow. So please read, please be a part of this building of narrative.
So we'll open this up for Q&A. If you have any questions for Jetli or for Sai, please ask them. We'll yes, ma'am.
You mentioned either inappropriate retaliation or delayed retaliation that have a meaning. So that is clearly a frustration for the army. But given the fact that structurally the army is under the political system, how do you think the political system will be more sensitive to the army and not stop rather than end wars?
See, I believe that of late these things are being. I'll narrate an incident. I didn't say it then. After 2008, when this incident happened, about 10 days after that time I was posted in the army headquarters. And for some work, thank you. And for some work I had to, I was in Amsterdam for some work, and I was checking into the hotel, and I gave the passport. There was an old couple, one old lady and the husband. They checked in after me, and when they asked profession, etc., I said Indian Army. Probably they must have heard about it. While we were going while we were in the lift, that old lady, she probably did not understand too much of English, but she still said, what did you do? And 26/11 had happened just a few days back. What did you do about 26/11 attack on Mumbai? I didn't have an answer. And she said, cowards. One old lady whom I had never met said cowards to me on my face. And I went into my room and I cried. Because that's exactly what it made us look like. We have taken our softness or our good nature or good-heartedness to a level where people actually make fun of you, they laugh at you. But of late, I believe the current regime is aware of, will not take things lying down. The surgical strikes, if you see, they achieved something. And like I said, they were launched within a couple of weeks. And if you see how many terrorist attacks have taken place in this country in the last few years, and especially after the surgical strikes. Now, that is what happens. If the army has been capable ever since we had it. It is only the will of political leaders that makes or breaks a nation. The army will do what it has to, what it is told by the political leaders. So I think we are now progressing in the right direction, and people are getting the message. Secondly, if you see Doklam. Abhinav must have mentioned, I have served in Ladakh Scouts as well. Now, in Ladakh Scouts also, I noticed the belligerence of these Chinese people, and this is what the Chinese try to do. It is called salami slicing. Thoda sa yahan se le lo. Don't do too much. Thoda sa le lo, and thoda sa yahan se le lo, thoda sa yahan se. This is what they do. It's called salami slicing. So, in Doklam, the government said no. The army had always been prepared. But I don't know if you are aware about the importance of the area of Doklam. If Doklam is taken or is given away, within a few months you will see that the entire northeast, there is, when you pass through that area, it is only about 25 odd kilometers of stretch which separates China and Bangladesh, the northernmost part. So, if Doklam is given away or is taken by China, I am very sure that there should not be any doubt in anybody's mind that China will try and take away the entire northeast. So, but the government put its foot down, and that was so very heartening to see. China is not Pakistan. China is a much larger part. But in the end, it was the Chinese who blinked. So once you put your foot down, the others understand that this is not a walkover, or this is not a cakewalk that you can, bulldoze your way through. That's not going to happen. So I think you're moving in the right direction. Thank you.
I had a comment and a question. The comment is, so I was recently talking philosophy with a relative, and he had some deep insight. So I asked him what was he reading, because I consider myself well read, but he was talking, quite deep. So he mentioned that he was reading this 8th century philosopher from Kashmir. His name is Abhinav Gupta, and he has written a series of books. So he was a polymath. He was an author, writer, singer, everything. And he in fact recommended that Indica Academy has published his books and to look at that. But that is the heritage we got from Kashmir. It's not just politics, but a lot that region has given us. So we just can't part with it. That's the comment. The question is, after the 26/11, okay, we did not attack Pakistan, but we could have done a lot more, maybe indirectly. For example, like declaring them a terrorist nation. But we seem to have this habit of wanting UN to do something or US to do something. Right? So this was well within our ambit. Declare them a terrorist nation, tell nations you want to do business with them, you can't do it with us. So does the army feel, sometimes that the politicians should do much more?
Well, like I said, the army and the forces as such are, they work under the political leadership, and that's the way it should be. It should always be that way. But yes, after 26/11, apart from carrying out something like a surgical strike, there are a lot more things which can be done. Quite a lot of things which can be done. For example, if you see Pakistan has the Arabian Sea. If we cut off Arabian Sea, we just do a little bit of it, and Pakistan will be on its knees. They are no match for our Navy. Our Navy is about 10 times stronger than Pakistan's Navy. Pakistan does not have an aircraft carrier. We have one, the second one is under construction, and there's a third one in the planning. Our submarines, everything, we are 10 times stronger than Pakistan. So that is one thing which you can do. Another thing which you can do is Indus Water Treaty. Okay, Indus Water Treaty, about 80% of water from the Indus River goes to Pakistan, which is the lifeline of Pakistan's Punjab. 80% of water is given to them, and we don't take it. We take very little of it. Why did it happen? And in all these wars, we didn't abrogate, we didn't touch the Indus Water Treaty even once. So that is something which when you have to do something, तो करना है, करो तो ठीक से करो, नहीं तो मत करो. We are at war and we still didn't, फिर भी हम Indus पूरा पानी दिए जा रहे हैं. Why? And so this is something which is third example I would give you. Place one brigade in Iran. Iran is our friend, and now we have something in Chabahar. We have Chabahar and Pakistan. They're just about 50 odd kilometers. The border is just about 50 odd kilometers from Chabahar in Iran. Place a brigade there. Many things can be done. So this is for the political leadership. I'm sure the army, the forces, they know what can be done, but it is up to the political leadership to take a stand. One very something different, but our soft-heartedness or our lack of decisiveness, I would say. In 1962 war, we lost that war for various reasons. We didn't prepare. Nehru didn't let us prepare. You would be surprised to know Nehru did not allow Air Force to be used against the Chinese. We are at war, and Nehru stopped the Air Force from being used against the Chinese. What more? और क्या चाहिए आपका युद्ध छिड़ा हुआ है? We had a very huge advantage as far as Air Force is concerned, in the sense that at that time China did not have the capability they did not have air bases in Tibet. So their Air Force, the planes had to take off much further south, a few thousand kilometers away, and they did not have that range that they could take off from that area and attack in Nefa and in northeast, or even in Aksai Chin. They couldn't have done that. They didn't have that capability at that time. We had. Our bases in northeast as well as in Bengal, our Air Force could have taken off, and our air chief was requesting, was pleading actually, कि मुझे जाने दो. Nehru did not allow. Why? उन्होंने तो aircraft use नहीं किया. आप क्यों use कर रहे हैं? आपको क्या चाहिए? Can you imagine? You are at war. वो करेगा जो उसके बस में है. आप वो करो जो आपके बस में है. And as a result, that we lost. Our men, our soldiers who did not have weapons or clothing and ammunition, they were not provided air support, even when they were dying. I mean, that speaks a lot about the political leadership and the will. Thank you.
It's a quite interactive session. Just I want to know. Just 2 days back, I saw that movie, Surgical Strike, that movie. In that, particularly, everybody is speaking about this surgical strike after Uri attacks. But before that, in that Myanmar and Bangladesh border, there was a havoc that it has been led by our Indian army, but it was not so much hyped or so much talked about. And after that, according to that movie only, I don't know, according to that movie only, after that, that insurgency has come down to an end. Almost you can say it's in a nominal state. So why can't such type of tactics, what we did in 2016 after the Uri attack, can be done in the western border just to contain Pakistan or any other insurgent groups who are trying to get into our territory? That, as an army officer, I want your suggestion or I want your view.
You see, if you take one action, you can't repeat it. You see, you have launched one surgical strike. Now Pakistan is aware that this is what we can do, so they are prepared. So the element of surprise is the most important thing for the success of such operations. Surgical strike, the way this was a unique thing. The next time we could do something much more. Like I said, you place a brigade there, and a brigade does something from that side. You attack here, they carry out some stupid action over here in which we lose innocent life, and some action happens at the Iranian border. Or, surgical strike as such, the way we carried out, it has lost the surprise element. This action, similar action, it will not be prudent to repeat it. Do something else. Now Pakistan knows कि ये लोग इस तरह का attack कर सकते हैं. So they are more or less prepared for it. So the next time if something happens, we should do something different and bigger.
Sir, I have a related question. Why should we always wait for them to attack? Why can't we just go and do something? I mean, why is it that we have to be a reactionary, like a person? Maybe we should have our own agenda and we should follow,
Well, that's a good question. Now we have started retaliating at least. पहले तो वो भी नहीं करते थे. अब कम से कम एक करारा जवाब तो देने लगे. Now, after a point of time, a situation will come, like I read out from the book, we have to complete that war. If you think that Pakistan के साथ आपकी दोस्ती हो जाएगी, that is not going to happen. And to complete that war, it may have to be initiated by us. Okay, I think as far as terrorist attacks are concerned, Pakistan has got a lesson. One can never be sure, but I believe that they will, given the condition that they are in, they are, financially also they are very badly off. So at this point of time, they will not try anything stupid. And, we also might like to just see Pakistan going down the drain. There might be a jihadi implosion inside Pakistan. There might be an economic implosion. Chinese are being killed every day. Today also there's another Chinese has been killed in Pakistan. So one doesn't know. Or it might just happen that one economic implosion will lead to the jihadi implosion. Because of economic reasons, the jihadis will something or the other. They have got their lesson. They are learning their lesson the hard way. And at this point of time, to say कि हम जाकर के वो करेंगे, well, I think थोड़ा सा we need to be a little more careful and let Pakistan go down the drain itself. And when it is doing that, that would be the time we go and do what we have to, take back the area that is in their control. Sure.
I want to go back to something you mentioned, that we are soft-hearted. In a general sense, I agree with you. But I want to move away for a minute, away from military, and recognize that there are forces within this country which we are battling against. I'll give you 3 instances, which I'm often surprised when I mention this, that a lot of people don't know. Security Council, it was first offered to India, not to China. And it was Nehru who said, give it to our bigger brother, China. Number 1. Number 2, Indira Gandhi's time. Lee Kuan Yew gave the founding membership of the ASEAN to India. Again, we turned it down. And now we go with a begging bowl to say East Asia, East Asia, East Asia. So, what I'm trying to say is, in none of these cases the military is involved. But what we are battling against, and that is what I like Abhishek's blogs all about, it's the recognition of the fact that we are battling a force within the country. And we cannot win anything outside unless we recognize them. And these forces are really entrenched. They are like an octopus. They're everywhere. And each of us standing here and talking will have to assume a much bigger, potent force to tackle that.
Actually, I completely agree with you that there are inherent internal forces which are inimical to the interests of this country, who do not want to see us progressing. And the last book that I wrote was on JNU, infamous JNU incident. I mean, I've talked about it. And if you see the entire nexus that is created, it is a nexus and it is an ecosystem actually. It is not just a nexus, it is an ecosystem which is entrenched into our political narrative and psyche, which is operating. I mean, it is very difficult for us to see कि ये अंदर से क्या है. I don't know if you have read about Naxalites and if you read about them, it will be very difficult to identify कि कौन communist है. In 1962 war, the communists in India, the Communist Party of India, supported China. Can you believe that? They should be shot dead. But they didn't support China. So, and in JNU as well as in DU, it was very difficult for anybody to become, forget about getting a professorship or a job in JNU. It was very difficult for students to graduate who were not aligned with the communist ideology. A lot of media anchors, they are aligned with that ideology. I don't have to name anyone, but if you see the news, you will find out who is the one who is sympathetic to people like Kanhaiya Kumar and this guy was there. How can anybody say Bharat tere tukde honge and get away with it and call to the media, news channels and studios and interviews liye ja rahe uske? Can you imagine that? But the ecosystem will slowly and slowly, things are changing slowly. Arnab Goswami was the one who was the first one to challenge this ecosystem. He didn't realize it at that point of time what he was doing, but he did it inadvertently because he questioned these guys. That how can you say Bharat tere tukde honge at that when this incident happened? And it was that moment which was a reality check for a couple of television channels. कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं? Couple of television channels, not all. Many of them still remain aligned with the left, and they blow things out of the ocean. But it's a battle which we have to fight, and somehow I believe that we will. There's no problem. Thank you.